Hello and welcome to another Link to the Past Randomizer Team League race here on Speed Gaming Channel. Today we have Week 3 Randomizer in a race between the Land of the Blind and the Magic Lamp Oil in the Misery Mire division. BenCreighton versus prieR57. I am your host, Worldwide Wimpy. I am joined by Wolflink0370. How are you doing today, sir?
My ears hurt.
Why do your ears hurt?
I think you're echoing thing a little bit there.
That might be something up with you. I shouldn't be echoing. Either way, we have a fantastic race between these two teams. I am, of course, just to be full clarity, on the Land of the Blind team. So, I may be a little biased, as I like to say I don't wish for any of our racers to lose, but most of the time we just need to have one winner, and hopefully today will be Ben pulling it out against prieR. So, on tracking today, I do believe we have Revolving Ocelot, excellent runner on their own themselves, as we get prepared to get this race going. Now, Wolflink, if you would, please explain to us what the Randomizer setting means for us in our seed this evening.
So, folks, Randomizer here has basic enemy shuffle here, so all the enemies in the overworld are shuffled as long as the enemies in the dungeons. This also includes things like for example, the Igors or the Grias that you have to kill in certain dungeons. They may not be there, so the bow may not be required for those rooms, for example. Also, for this week, we are playing with full boss shuffle, which means every single boss will show up. And instead of there being a guaranteed second Armos, a second Lammolas, a second Moldorm like you would see in a simple shuffle, the three bosses that get a duplicate are completely random. We may have two Trinects, two Lammolas, and two Moldorms, but we will not have an instance in which we have three Trinects and two Lammolas.
As we see, as is tradition over in Ben's stream, a randomized sprite, we have, looks like Twilight Princess Zelda and a magical Christmas elf over on prieR's side.
Indeed. And of course, so this is the Dark World Conference Misery Mire division, and of course, if you can see from the scores here, we have a 2-2 from Magic Lamp Oil in prieR57, and Land of the Blind is 1-3.
Yes, unfortunately, we ran into a little bit of hard luck last week, not taking any points. We had a little situation where we had to rush one of our seeds, but I'm sure Ben's going to put in a great showing here on Randomizer. I'm sure prieR is going to do the same as well, as we are started over on prieR's side.
Yeah,
as we find a rupee in Link's house, and Ben starting over in the Sanctuary. As just give us one single moment as we prepare a sync for our racers, as Ben finds a Moon Pearl in the Sanctuary.
Indeed. Now, of course, folks, the same rules apply here other than the Randomizer aspect of this. It is open 7-7 to begin it. There are swords available. And something I didn't mention yet is there is actually restrictions on how the bosses get shuffled. We'll get to that a little bit later when they become relevant.
So there is our sync. We are now all equal here on our restream. Now, you were talking about the Randomizer bosses. This is not fully randomized, so if you've ever played an randomized version and a full boss randomization of this game, you know you could run into 3-4 Trinexes, 2 Blinds, and absolutely no Moldorms. But in this setting, it's fully shuffled, which means the bosses that would normally be in GT, your refights of the Light World, are also mixed in. They could be a double of any 3 bosses. So we're not going to see 3 Trinexes, but we may see 2, as we see prieR pick up their Moon Pearl from the Sanctuary.
And that is the flute right there for BenCreighton. Good find for him as well. And there is one other thing to note here about this week that's somewhat special here. Racing Council, I'm sure some of people may be aware, has approved a couple new glitches. We may get to see some new tech here coming forward.
As we find the first of our progressive gloves here in the Thieves' Hideout of Lost Woods, our players one item away from finding Dark World access.
I always love when you see a Topple just spring out of the ground. It's like, ouch, you jerk.
As it
It's
looks
kind
as though Ben's heading toward escape sequence, maybe? With no bombs, doing South Shore doesn't really make any sense. He may be actually farming up bombs to go through Kakariko Village from the south, as there are guaranteed bomb drops in that middle rock to the right-hand side of Link's house, and a couple of bomb drops here in the bush arrow just outside of our fluty friend.
Indeed. And we're seeing a bunch of enemies here. There is the red Beery. Oh no, those are the red Baris. Beeries are the small ones.
They're just squid boys to me.
I mean, I still have names. We got the Power Glove there as well for prieR. Picking it up as along with BenCreighton. And then, yeah, as you say, grinding bombs for Kakariko.
And 3 is all you need for Kakariko. Really hoping to find a couple of more bomb sets inside the checks of Kakariko. As we see, a Bushman has the bombs for prieR inside of the Lost Woods. Some bombs up here on the top of Race Game for Ben. Would be surprised if he grabs them. It would be nice to have, but that's a little bit of time sinkage to grab just 3 bombs. As we get our first look into Blind's hut here in Kakariko Village, there's going to be a total of 5 checks here.
Alright, and we're going to start off with this check, which is the cape. Ooh. And the Book of Medora. Okay, this is interesting all of a sudden. 300 rupees, 20 rupees. You can pay the merchant now.
Just some arrows inside of our friendly tavern.
I'm sorry, that caught me off guard.
Yes, in the Randomizer, you can get guards called at you at any time inside the village. As Ben just finding some rupees inside of the Kakariko chicken hunt.
I think it's because it's specifically a spear guard that showed up. Flute cone online now for BenCreighton. Fast travel will be unlocked.
Get your salutes in the chat for our majestic, magical, interdimensional, intergalactic traveling space duck. As we don't find too much here in Kakariko Well.
Yeah, nothing much other than a shield. I think we also saw the boomerang there as well.
The red boomerang was in the back of Blind's hut.
Ah, yeah.
As prieR hitting their rest of the checks here in Kakariko Village, activating that same flute. The intergalactic, planetary, magical, majestic, white space duck. He will fly you anywhere in the light world as long as it has a designation of a number 1 through 8. Anywhere else, he's confused.
Now, we do have a couple of routing options our runners have available to them with the book and the flute. They can opt to go back in the scope the Lost Woods and check the pedestal if they so choose. They can also opt to flute to Styx and check Agino, which is normally a check that is a one-off location. You don't normally go out of your way to check that spot. But in this seed, it could be early on, it could be an important item, so it might be worth checking out.
Yeah, being able to loop in Agino with all of your South Shore checks is a nice thing to have. You kind of start off on that left-hand side and go straight right.
In fact, I would actually be willing to do it even more so because we can flute to 6, check the Desert Ledge for an important item, and then with our book, we can also get in there as well.
As both of our runners finding a mail upgrade inside of the well as well.
All's well that ends well, I guess.
Yeah, but that cash was hardly a drop in the bucket. As we see Ben and prieR buying more bombs inside Kakariko Village, ensuring that they have a nice supply of explosions.
Alright, prieR is bringing the flute. It looks to be 7.
Makes perfect sense. You can leave that Agino check as the last thing.
Yeah.
As we see Ben save and quitting over into the Sanctuary. It looks as though Ben is heading toward the backside of Escape. 3 easy, quick checks for you, as long as it's not all Lionel's inside.
Hopefully not. No, it doesn't look like it. It looks like it's
We got
looks
some
like it's
ghosts.
shadows.
We got some ghost boys, and we've got a couple of dead rocks.
Small key to the back escape. No fire supposed to put in logic yet, but there's always that.
As the dam area not giving us anything. Going to be checking what's inside what's normally Mini Moldorm Cave. It could be anything. We have Shadow Boys. And no real easy way to kill them.
Now, shadows have to be well-timed.
Using bomb strats here is prieR. You gotta be careful with that health, though. Down to 4 bombs is prieR to kill these shadow men who like to cross. There we go. Good job there from prieR.
Over the bug net, the hammer, so we have our Darkhold access. 10 arrows. Heart piece, hopefully a 4th. Nope. And 10 more arrows. Well fought and well earned.
Well, that does put Dark World access into logic. We have all available portals in what is the overworld for Dark World, except for Up Death Mountain.
Yep, we need the Titan Smith for that one.
Interesting here. prieR's heading straight to South Dark World. Hype Cave's going to be open for them. They're going to be able to go left, check Stumpy, hit a dig game. They could go right and up and hit Pyramid, the Palace of Darkness as well.
This is most likely a Hype Cave to start things off. It's a very heavy item-dense location. Although, will it live up to its legacy or its current reputation, as I like to call it?
As Ben heads up into Agina here.
Alright, 20 rupees to start things off, along with 3 bombs. We also have a heart container, a heart piece, and the flippers! And we're also seeing Agina here from BenCreighton. That one-off check's coming into play, maybe. Only 50 rupees.
That does inch Ben a little bit closer to that Zora money once he does get those flippers or decides to fake flipper. I would assume Ben is going to flute over here to finish his South Shore. No, going to go into Desert. Makes sense. We have not had a map check from either player, so we don't quite know
That is a bow on Desert Ledge. BenCreighton gonna go and get that immediately. That is a much more consistent weapon than the bombs are.
This being Randomizer and full boss shuffle, we do not know what bosses lay in wait for us inside of dungeons, though we do need a fire source or perhaps boots to complete anything throughout Desert Palace, as we find just a shield upgrade here in Sasra's closet.
Fire shield, best shield. Now, as you can see, a lot of the enemies are shoveled here, even in the dungeons, and you can notice that there are no BMOs available. Those are also considered a boss, or an enemy, even though they are invincible. And
As we find a small key here in Desert Palace, Ben going to head straight over to the right-hand side to pick up the 2 chests that are small key lock, hopefully finding an item and the big key.
Now, we have buzzes here, which are very dangerous enemies in the Dark World, but in the Light World, they've turned into rats with just the buzz skin, and are actually quite harmless.
As unfortunately Ben having no tools to kill crickets inside of that full clear locked doorway.
And we see a compass on the torch, so this dungeon is not considered key locked.
Yeah, it is not boots locked. We know the big key is going to be over in the right-hand side in that locked door chest. Once he gets the bow, I do assume he's going to come back in here and kill those crickets and get that big key.
prieR, meanwhile, has entered Houlihan.
again, not a bad play. Going to pick up the rupees necessary to pay the King of Fishes 500 rupees for a mystery item. As we see Ben here heading toward that mini Moldorm cave. We know it's just Shadow's going to have a bow to use as he gets hecked up by some thieves.
Yeah, there are a couple of thieves in the way here. Thankfully, as something that I found out in the Randomizer settings on the site, thieves are killable by default, so don't have to worry about them too much.
As we see 20 rupees on the Lake Hylia Island, the most spectacular view in all of Hyrule, we find ourselves a friendly neighborhood hobo underneath the bridge, and he has for us today another heart container.
I mean, a heart container is always nice to have, especially in the early game.
Especially in Randomizer, since you don't know when or where you're going to come across a Trinex, Lionel's, or our fabled Cannon Guard, as Ben picks up his bug net and hammer inside Mini Moldorm Cave.
I forgot about the Cannon Guard, actually. He's certainly a rare enemy. He doesn't show up in the normal game at all.
Yeah, he's only in Randomizer. He is coded in the vanilla game, but is inactive, so...
Oh! BenCreighton sniped by a Beamos.
Not a big deal. I think he was considering heading over into Ice Rod Cave. This will give him a chance to go ahead and make additional checks. So, not a real bad death to have there.
No. Does Leech have a hammer now?
prieR here, heading into the Zora area after doing Ice Rod Cave. Going to check that waterfall ferry.
Guards on the water, that is scary. And this, BenCreighton has the book equipped. This is a pet check, I think.
As we find just 2 pieces of heart inside of the waterfall ferry. We're gonna go visit a fish-faced friend who will take your rupees and give you possibly something good. The difference in a race I was watching yesterday was someone knowing what PED was and the other runner not. So, just some bombs up here on the waterfall ledge. prieR is out of bombs, so that might be a play for them.
Unfortunately, PED today is only a red rupee. Nothing for us there. Lots of berries in this area.
As prieR swims over to our fish-faced friend, gives him $500 dues, and we receive in return another piece of heart. And this isn't bad routing for Ben. You get to check what's on the pedestal, head south, hit the Dark World portal into the Village of Outcasts. As we get our map check, we have pendants in Skullwoods and a green one in Turtle Rock, with our 5-6 crystals being Thieves Town and Ice Palace. So there is a pendant hiding somewhere in Light World, we just don't know where. As it looks like prieR is heading into the Dark World, into the Village of Outcasts here, as well as Ben decides to dip inside of Skullwoods first. You're going to be able to loop in Bumper Ledge with this as well, since you do have the cape.
Now, one little nuance we should probably mention here in regards to Thieves Town is the boss is available immediately in Thieves Town in Randomizer.
Yeah, no need to bomb the floor to bring in the holy light that exposes Blind for what it truly is. Ben gonna have to be a little careful here. Those shadows can be sneaky. Oof.
Grabbed by the Wallmaster.
It's not fun being dragged off into a interdimensional space that drops you off in the same point, but in a different reality. Fortunately, this time not having too much difficulty with that Wallmaster.
Gets a small key. Going to take a Death Warp on the Gibdo.
Makes perfect sense here. Gonna save yourself a second or two.
Mega Spikes and Bubbles in this river. Not fun.
As prieR deciding to head into Skullwoods from the drop without the safety of a small key, he could be locked here in version 31. There is no guaranteed key in these 3 checks.
No, but based on what we've seen, I think it's likely that there is a key here. Yeah. We've already seen the map. I think he saw an item.
Yeah, there were arrows in that Gibdo room. Oof!
A different BenCreighton. This is not a great place to die.
I know. He's got significantly less hearts than prieR does. And Blue Mail does not help with fall damage or these big, heavy spike boys. We know that that chest inside of the pinball room is nothing important.
We're getting something out of the chest. I looked away for a moment. It was a sword.
So we have our first sword here in this seed, about 18 minutes in. Ben, you just have to go get that big chest, my dude. Don't worry about that small one. As he pieces out of Skullwoods, Ben is going to be a sword behind here.
Honestly, don't blame Ben. Low health. Lots of traps there.
He does have the big key, though. He does have that big key. He could have checked that big chest. As both of our runners are going to head up. Oh, no, Ben's going to forget that bottle completely.
Ben doesn't even know it's there. He just grabbed the magic and was like, oh, I have magic now. I can go through the cave. I should probably go... Ben is a little confused, I think.
I think the Skullwoods circumstances has him a bit frazzled. Just needs to take a deep breath here, recompose himself, and focus on the task at hand as prieR picks up that green bottle, going to be heading straight into the village of outcasts here.
Yeah, one thing we haven't mentioned, folks, is BenCreighton's having a really rough time here, but the enemy strength and their health is normal, so they will die to their usual way. It's just that they're in different positions that you're not used to.
As we get that another Dark World check here from Ben. Now, race fans, if you are enjoying the race so far, hit that exclamation mark R. You will get a link to each of our runners' Twitch web pages. Give them a follow and a like, and whatever it is you like to do on Twitch. As we just find a bloomerang inside of the chess game here in the Village of Outcasts.
So, I believe now would be a good time to mention the restrictions that we have in regards to full boss over here. There are certain bosses that can only show up in specific places, or rather, they can't show up in specific places. In the case of Thieves Town here, any boss can show up. However, in things like the Mothula Arena, for example, we have it is set up so that Trinex cannot spawn there.
As we get a second bottle from the brewery, that bottle was empty, perhaps being saved for a special vintage-style ale made by those who live inside the Village of Outcasts.
And there is the mirror for prieR. Good find. Great 8 item to have. That'll clean up the routing towards the southern part of Dark World.
And if you are enjoying the commentating and tracking as well, you can give your fanciful broadcasters a follow as well with !C. Click that heart at the very top right of all of our channels to give us a follow.
Oh, jeez, a Lionel. Alright, and the boss of Thieves Town is not being checked. prieR wants to find the items first. Makes sense. Ooh. All the Lionels in this place. Entering the Hellway, and there are Lionels in the Hellway.
One could say this is their main hideout.
I'm just gonna shoot you a glare and just move on from there.
Oh, come on, I'm sure that's gonna make the chat roar.
To what? Hey, there's the cannon guard.
As we get our cannon guard sighting!
Yeah, I'm just gonna say nay to those puns.
I don't see any horsemen here.
Exactly. prieR bumping up in the spotlight. I guess prieR does not remember that, which...
As Ben's going to have a very fun time here navigating this hallway without a sword.
So prieR most likely has forgotten the conditions regarding the blind fight here in Randomizer. I don't blame him. It's easy to overlook if you're not expecting it.
Ben taking an unfortunate death here in the Heckway. Both of our runners do not have any potions to heal health, nor do they have a fairy, as Ben is just like, nope, going to try this later.
Ooh, and the Gibdo takes down prieR.
As Ben heads into the... Nope. Going to go somewhere using the mirror. Most likely going to turn in Bottle Boy, I assume, and then maybe flute somewhere else. As prieR heading back into the bowels of Thieves Town, we'll see if they stop off at the boss fight. First, Ben really looking for a sword at this moment. We know one is inside of Skullwood's big chest. You do not need the maiden for the boss to spawn in Thieves Town in full boss shuffle. It's already there.
That is correct. In Randomizer, the boss of Thieves Town is available immediately.
So you're essentially doing this to do the 2 checks in the basement.
Ding coming for BenCreighton. Potential item to be had here after at most 30 digs.
Fortunately for Ben, that sword has not come into play in the form of a completable dungeon. So lots of time can be made up here if prieR finds nothing in these 2 checks, as Ben picks up the Titan's Mitts underneath the soil in the game. This is going to be perfect routing for your Smith checks and South Shore.
And I think at this point, prieR remembered, because now was not seeing the maiden there. Titan's Mitts after 28 digs. Yes, I was counting.
As we're going to get a check of the big chest here in Thieves Town. We found a map in Blind Cell, $50 reduce in the big chest. As prieR is going to go check the boss. Could be anything, we don't know. prieR more than likely hoping for perhaps a Lamola's, a Moldorm.
Definitely doesn't want to see a Trinex.
Perhaps a Vanilla Blind would be
That's
great.
a Cold Stare, we can't fight that.
Yep, he's gonna peace out and head into a different direction.
So, we know that there is a Cold Stare. We don't know if that is the Cold Stare.
Yes, as 3 of our bosses are going to be doubled up, since there are 3 Light World bosses in GT. That is what the full shuffle means. If it was randomized, it could be any number of a certain boss. If it was simple, we would just have those additional Light World bosses looped in.
And something else to mention, just because the bosses have a duplicate does not mean they will show up in GT. They could show up in another dungeon. So for all we know, someplace like Eastern Palace could have the other Cold Spear if there is one.
As Ben picking up that lunchbox, going to return it to a hungry locksmith. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy Link to the Past Randomizer, we have a full slate of games and races for you throughout the week. In this team league, there are 64 teams, 3 members per, 2 members have to race every single week. That's 128 matches, with an average of 2 hours per seed. If you do the math, that's more than a week's worth of racing for you every single week. We try and rebroadcast as many as we can across the Speed Gaming Network and the Link to the Past Randomizer Race League channels. So if you are interested, click and go over to the ALTTPR League.com for a full schedule of races.
It seems we've confused chat a little bit here, so to clarify, there is a simple shuffle and a full shuffle. Simple shuffle shuffles all the bosses and does not change how many of each boss there is. So there would be there would be 1 Trinex, but there would be 2 Armos Knights. We're playing with full shuffle, so any of the 10 bosses can have 1 duplicate in the pool, but every boss will be represented at least once in our settings today.
So, for example, because there are 2 Moldorm fights in the game vanilla, in a full shuffle, there could be 2 Trinexes, but there's not going to be 3 because that kind of eats up the same slot. So you are limited to how many you are exposed to.
So there are going to be 3 extra bosses. So of our 10 bosses, 1 of them will have a duplicate of himself somewhere else.
As we get a check here on the Bombos tablet from BenCreighton, just some couch cash as we see him progress through his South Dark World, dropping off that lunchbox. Nothing super important. Really, honestly, the only difference between our runners is 1 piece of equipment, a sword and a bow. Ben having that bow, and prieR finding that fighter sword inside of Skullwood's big chest. As Ben's going to check his hype cave, going to find those flippers inside. As prieR makes their way through their Smith chain checks as well, prieR already finding those flippers in Hype Cave. No need to go over to the right here unless he wants to head for a Palace of Darkness dip.
Something prieR can do, though, is... Well, prieR can't immediately get the item there. Can check the Bombos tablet, however, and see what's there.
That just couch cash. As Ben did give a check to it.
Ah, okay.
As Ben, heading right into their flipper checks, finds 20 rupees on the wonderful vacationing spot of Lake Hylia Island. As
Now,
Ben is going to head over to the hobo check. Will be interesting to see if Ben decides to do a Palace of Darkness loop-in, as we see Tower of Hera is our last pendant dungeon. So, no need to climb the mountain today so far.
could still be something up there, however. Now, we were talking about the enemy shuffle as well, but there is 1 enemy in the game that does not get shuffled. And that is the Freezor.
Yes, so the only room we know for sure that is locked behind a kill with a specific weapon are the Freezors inside of Ice Palace. That does not mean that we can't find, for example, the red Igors in their vanilla rooms. We can, but it's more than likely that they're not going to be there.
And that is also the meat boat because we do have the boat as well. Ben, of course, found that on the desert ledge. prieR has not been over there yet, though.
As Ben heads up the pyramid to get a glance as to what maybe Ganon dropped out of his pocket when he was building his shrine to the heavens. Just a piece of heart. No big deal, as prieR going to see that bow on the desert ledge. As it looks as though Ben is heading into the escape sequence here, checking to see what Uncle has for him.
Alright, Mire Shed coming up here now for prieR. 2 items here, as well as potentially the medallion requirement for Misery Mire, which is a required dungeon this seed. And up to 2nd row of health.
That's
quite safe.
Super nice for a prieR to have. You never know what you're going to come across. You've already got a male upgrade.
That looked like Bombos to me. Did that look like Bombos to you?
I do believe that is Bombos. Our tracker is going to be able to confirm for us because they are better at paying attention than I am.
Someone thought it was Quake. I couldn't tell. I honestly couldn't tell. That check was a little blurry. Oh well. Doesn't matter. We don't have any medallions anyway to check going to Misery Mire just yet.
As we get the escape sequence here from Ben, he finds that ether medallion inside the vanilla chest that is normally a map here in Escape.
Well, that's always nice to have.
As we're progressing through Desert Palace with prieR here and Ben going through the escape, I just want to mention to you, the audience, that we do have more matchups scheduled later this evening on Speed Gaming and the ALTTPR Race League. At 8:10 Eastern, we have Will Pull Ped for Food versus But We're Buddies. Sphere Affinity versus Forfeiters Are Us at 9:10 p.m. Eastern on Speed Gaming 2. And we have the second of a doubleheader between these two teams, Land of the Blind versus Magic Lamp Oil, Yodanashi versus Durant, at 9:10 Eastern Daylight Time on ALTTPR League number 2.
Alright, BenCreighton going a little bit lower here. I missed what was in the boomerang chest.
20 rupees.
And down here we just have the map, which means we do have an item in the Dark Cross, but that is a place where you are not probably going to be seeing about the lamp. Because that's one thing we haven't mentioned yet about Randomizer, I believe. Dark rooms are scary! Very scary!
Dark rooms are not a fun prospect to want to do, which is why neither of our runners have decided to go and get Gary Oldman up the mountain, though we do have progression throughout all of Death Mountain with that mirror in hand and Titan's Minutes. So I would assume only a matter of time before either one of our players goes ahead and heads up that mountain, as prieR does that very thing. And going to be a very brave boy heading through this enemized dark room with a fighter sword. Not too bad there, having an anti-fairy and a mimic. Oof, takes a fall in the hole right before the other doorway to get the Gary Oldman.
And that was a green Gorilla because the sword is actually dealing damage. Remember, folks, the red Gorillas and red head Igors, the ones that you require the bow. So they will not even take damage, they just get plinked off. There's another sword, though, with the catfish.
Ben finally finding something sharp to slash and dash with. Thanks to our second friendly fish-faced friend. Unfortunately for Ben, not going to find much other progression with his flips. Though we do see that our Fairy Fountain freebie is a freebie.
Alright. So 2 swords known, one in the big chest of Skull Woods, one on Catfish. Not great locations for them, admittedly. They're in pretty isolated locations. Alright, Spectral Rock being checked right now. We have 10 arrows on top of it. Inside, we also will have another item. And that is only 20 rupees.
Techno, that pun you just made left me a bit stung. As Whirlwind has the freebie emote that is on BenCreighton's Twitch channel. Our randomizer runners like having lots of emotes related to Link to the Past. Pretty clever ones. So, as we just find a triple bomb here on the Vanilla Ether tablet.
Unfortunately, we lack a certain item, so no Haripod tonight. But that item, on the other hand, that item is very nice to have. That is the magic powder, which we can turn in for an item.
We are fire locked here in Hera, but we do find one item of possible progression on that magical powder that summons a sacrificial bat.
But now here comes the real meat and potatoes of Death Mountain of the East Side. Lots of good value to be had here. 8 items in the Light World alone.
Unfortunately, without boots or hookshot, at most right now, we only have a possibility of 4 items if you include Spike Cavern. But should we find those boots or hookshot, we're going to be able to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, we'll be seeing what the medallion here is for Turtle Rock. And we'll get a good look at this regardless. And that is most definitely Bombos.
Lots of wavy bacon on that turtle. As Ben picking up that bag of magical fairy dust. As we get our Super Bunny check, just some rupees and more explosions. prieR here will be interesting to see if he decides to, nope, going to ignore Spike Cave for the time being. Makes perfect sense. Interesting here that prieR doing Paradox Cave before the Spiral Cave. I don't know what the time difference is between falling down doing the Spiral Cave first or doing Paradox first.
I think I know what prieR is trying to do, and that's actually kind of clever. If prieR is hoping that in this heavy, dense location he finds a fire source, so that he can then do Hera and then go back to the right side and then jump down.
Or maybe hookshot or boots. That's also a possibility here.
Yeah. So prieR is hoping for something that will give him more checks.
As we find a fire shield inside of Spiral Cave, and another bottle inside the main hub of Paradox Cave.
And that will be Mirror Shield for prieR as well. Which, unfortunately, is not really an ideal thing to have. So there's a lot of bits and pieces
missing here. I think what we need to do is actually... I don't know about you, but I'm thinking, starting feeling that like Eastern is the right answer.
Well, we have Eastern available. We have Palace of Darkness that you can loop in with that. Both players are going to be able to progress through all the way toward the Dark Room checks. In Pod, you have... if you really wanted to, if you happen to find a fire source or a bombo somewhere, you can go into Ice Palace. Swamp is also a dippable play, as chat points out.
That is also true. We can't full clear the dungeon, but we can certainly poke around the front half.
You know you have the possibility of full clearing Pod or Eastern if you find a lamp, as I'm sure both of our players do not want to try and navigate the dark rooms in either of those dungeons.
Yeah, I think at this point it's going to come down to... it's going to be a routing divergence to which way we go.
As we see prieR going to turn in that magical powder, summon a magical bat from underneath the smith's house that it has an altar full of some type of red jello. As we find our third sword upgrade on the batter. So Ben is going to most definitely going to check out that Skullwood's big chest eventually, I think, and find a sword there, and if he happens to route in batter, he'll be at that tempered sword level.
Oh, the rock stopping the bat, or the duck from carrying prieR away. And yes, going to Eastern. Going to Eastern area.
Ben being brave, heading over into Spike Cave. We do have that cape to kind of make this a little bit easier, but with that heart count, it's going to be severely close as to whether or not we're going to be able to lift up that rock in time.
I believe he'll be fine. He has a green potion in his back pocket. Just make sure to keep some health to use the cape. Oh, that might be close. Ah, no, he's got it. And rewarded with the single arrow. Okay, maybe not exactly worth it, but at least it's a check he doesn't have to do later.
The arrow shaft of destiny. As we are getting our first look inside the Palace of Darkness, Ben going to go get some potions.
Fill in the bottles of blue. That's a good idea.
As we find a big key in the front of Palace of Darkness, we are bow locked. Fortunately, both of our runners picking up that quiver and bow from the desert ledge.
Now, hold on a moment. If I recall right, there's no... Oh, the kill rooms don't require the bow anymore. At least the ones that had the red Igors and Gorillas.
That's correct. This being enemy shuffle and our Randomizer, we don't necessarily need the bow.
And in this case, Pod is not bow locked as a result. We do have a couple of pickets though, and they could like to steal all your items.
As Ben is going to find his Master Sword here on batter.
Roller. That is one of the worst positions rollers I've ever seen. Hook shot immediately found.
There's our hook shot in the... I do believe that is a small key chest vanilla? Or is it the map chest?
I believe it is the map chest. But also to note, if you know key logic in Palace of Darkness, you'll know now that the remaining 3 chests, the one up there that you'll be seeing here in a moment on the left of prieR screen, the one on the bridge over here, and this one down here, those are all going to be guaranteed small keys. because there has to be 4 in the front.
That's right. If you find any number of these two things, an item or dungeon item, you are guaranteed a small key in that vanilla big key chest. As the randomizer itself is programmed in such a way to assume you use your keys in the worst possible fashion. As Ben, going inside of Thieves Town here, we know that he cannot complete it. It is a cold stare, but
Oh
perhaps...
my goodness, that Mega Spike is in the worst spot. You are not hammer yumping this seed. Wow, that is just so rude.
Chad is asking where Ether was. It was in the front part of Escape. As we hit 48 minutes in, neither of our runners have completed a single dungeon. We've only seen one boss.
Oh, there we go. That's the booth for prieR in the dark.
As we're taking that death. Again, not fun to go through these dark rooms, even vanilla, specifically in Palace of Darkness. But in Randomizer, it's just that little much worse.
Now to note, the boots are, by logic, fire locked. Or at least torch locked.
Yeah, if they're in the dark maze, they are completely lamp locked. But he found those in the dark basement, so that is fire source locked.
That's correct. Fire rod is now considered in dark room logic for the torches. Doing the dark maze now. We heard a plink, so I'm assuming there's a trap in here somewhere. Or maybe a spearman. Three
As
bombs.
we find more explosions inside the bottom right chest of the Palace of Darkness, Ben going to find a map and useless item in the big chest here of Thieves Town, and then going to get the bad news that we are a fire damage dealing item away from taking out Cold Stare here in Thieves Town.
Indeed. Meanwhile, up here, it looks to be taking... Whew, prieR. I'll give him credit for being... I'll give him credit for credit is due. He is going to go all the way here. Going to go to what would be the Helmsler King.
Yeah, you've got a dark terrapin room, which is normally a pain in the butt for any runner vanilla. And we don't know what's going to be inside that room. It could be a whole bunch of blob boys who do next to nothing. It could be a whole bunch of crab pots. Or it could be 5 Lionels and an anti-fairy. We don't know.
One thing we do know is that pain may ensue.
As Ben getting that bad news about the Cold Stare fight ahead in Thieves Town. Looks as though he's going to be hitting up the Graveyard Ledge here in North Dark World. prieR is going to be able to loop in King's Tomb and Bonk Rocks together with Graveyard Ledge once he does decide to go do that. Alright, just a squid boy in this first room, but here comes the main event, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some diggers, we've got some squid boys, and now we don't know where the last enemy is. Oh, he's right there. There he is.
Yep, levers in this dungeon.
As we're gonna get a peek inside what is in the Palace of Darkness boss room. It is a moldy boy.
It's Moldor, and he's got a lot of eyes.
As it looks as though Ben is going to check his Misery Mire area. As we get our first crystal, 52 minutes and 5 seconds into our Enemized seed.
We may be here a while, if that's to be any indication.
As Ben's going to pick up some heart containers here. Going to feel a little bit more safe with that second row of health.
What is prieR doing?
I don't know.
He does have a key.
Sometimes you get a bit confuzzled with your first crystal dungeon being 52 minutes inside of your seed as to what progression you can make. We've all been there.
Yeah. Possibly forgot it was one-to-one key logic.
As it looks as though Ben is heading into Desert Palace here to pick up the at least one item in the big chest once he does get that big key. As prieR is going to make quick work here of Eastern Palace. With those boots on, it's going to be a little hard in the dark rooms, but they're relatively simple compared to other dungeons' dark rooms.
Yeah, thankfully those crickets are actually just in the light world are just replaced with rats in terms of health and damage.
As Ben gets that big key for Desert Palace, he has one item sitting waiting for him inside the big chest.
And then you can see that was probably the one other instance of a kill room not changing. That is the Stalfos trap.
So the big thing here for Ben to find is a fire source, specifically fire rod. Unfortunately, just finding 10 arrows inside of the big chest of Desert Palace.
Well, based on what we know now, Swamp is completely in logic. I would expect that would be prieR's next destination after finishing up here.
As Ben heading off to his orphaned Ice Rod Cave, we know it does not have the progression we are looking for. He's going to be down to dipping dungeons. We know boots are inside of Pod, which is fire source locked in the basement.
But what's not fire source locked is the, like I said, the hook shot. So Swamp is completely on the table and may have the fire source we need for the boots anyway.
And with that hook shot, hammer, and flips, I guarantee you prieR is going to be heading to Swamp Palace next. So we'll see what Ben does once he does find that hook shot on the right-hand side of Pod. The best thing for him to do is to leave and head straight for Swamp.
Alright, through the dark rooms now. There are 2 kill rooms that normally have red Igors, but they should not be an issue here. The only issue is the boss.
Yeah, this could be a Trinex. This could be a second Cold Stare. Outside of that, I do believe we have everything that we would need to kill any other boss. As Ben picks up his riot shield from the Sage's Closet. As we
And
find
here-
ourselves in Eastern Palace, a blind fight. So, prieR is going to be 2 crystals ahead of Ben at the end of the east side of Hyrule, with potentially a third one in pocket for prieR before Ben even probably attempts a first try in House of Darkness.
Blind is anything but free, however, an Randomizer, given the fact that he spawns into that no setup location. Cannot do the scripted fight against Blind here in Randomizer. But that is still a third boss we have seen now. So there is the pool that is thinning. We may have just found all 3 duplicates. And there's still one of each boss left, for all we know.
As we get that flying duck, and prieR heading straight to Swamp Palace.
This makes perfect sense. And hey, maybe we'll get to see a new trick.
That's right. If you did not hear the news or were unable to catch races since Saturday afternoon, the ALTTPR Race League High Council decided that diver down is what it's called, and icebreakers are legal to use inside of league matches and official tournament races. Unfortunately, for diver down here, it's only going to be a bomb attempt if prieR is familiar with trying it with explosions.
That is right. Another ruling that we could have seen, but we didn't see it, is the extended stair glitch in Palace of Darkness, which basically lets you skip the crystal switch in the arena room with all the hard hat beatable, or
As
what
Ben
normally as a hard hat
finds
beatable to
his
say.
hook shot in the right-hand side. Ben knows his Palace of Darkness key logic. He's going to mirror forward and continue to the back. He's going to find those boots in the basement, the dark basement of Palace of Darkness.
So one of the main uses of diver down, as we're going to get through here, is to limit the backtracking of Swamp here. It may actually be faster to blow up the key on purpose.
Well, it most definitely saves you time from having to hit that third switch and go down to check the 2 chests to the south that you free up from draining that water. So you definitely save time there. I don't know if it will save time over you leaving a key there on the left side or not. As Ben finds his boots in the right side of the basement. Will be interesting to see if Ben decides to go ahead and do the Dark Maze in Randomizer.
For now, prieR is just going to go to it. And
Yes.
it's just going to go the normal way.
prieR just heading straight to the back.
So another use of diver down would be to skip pushing that block.
Ben is going to orphan the Dark Maze. We know that's a good idea, as there wasn't any progression through the big chest or the 2 chests in Dark Maze. Or he may have decided I need an additional key. The best thing for Ben to do here is just to go right to the boss room and take out whatever may be... Oop, no, he's going to go ahead and leave Palace of Darkness for later.
That's completely understandable. Probably is absolutely terrified of whatever may lurk in the dark. Because you don't know what enemies are going to be in there without a light source.
And Ben more than likely feeling a little bit behind, having to re-dip Thieves Town, not getting that big chest item or the additional small chest in Skullwoods.
Hey, look, it's Vanilla Argus.
We know Ben can sequence break through those dark rooms, not have to worry too much about dying, and getting 2 bosses he can kill. And before BenCreighton can even attempt his first clearable boss, prieR is going to have a 3 crystal lead in this entomized Week 3 seed.
Alright, Argus is down. And there's the Uncle Pack of Bombs. So 4 bosses down. And we know what a 5th one is in the form of Thieves Town's boss being Cold Stare.
And just remember, Randomizer fans, we do have races going on throughout the week across Speed Gaming Network channels and the ALTTPR League channels. Tomorrow we have so far 11 matches scheduled, starting early in the afternoon at 4:10 Eastern. We have the Noble Foxes versus Reheated Leftovers, going all the way through a nightcap at 9:40 Eastern Daylight Time. 2 Pearl, 2 Furious versus the Yu-Tang Clan. As we see prieR here going through the left-hand side of Swamp Palace.
And really, prieR's lead here is more so the fact that prieR is willing to do dark rooms, despite it being enemized with the enemy shuffle on.
And Ben being, and rightfully so, Ben being overly cautious, just in case.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with what Brent's been doing this seed. Even I would be scared of doing dark rooms and enemies. And I'm one that will just say, what's lamp logic? Who cares about lamp logic? I actually care about lamp logic when it comes to enemies. That's the one mode that you will make me care about it.
I think it's worth just a try, and if you fail, then you go ahead and do something else. But that's because I'm a risky type of person. In the race that I had in week 1, I did the Schrodinger's Go mode on a Medallion Turtle Rock, and ended up winning because of it. So, it can be a little bit risky, it can be a little bit dangerous, but sometimes in a race, that's what you need to do. As we just find half magic here on the right-hand side of Western Swamp Palace, and Ben heading inside of his swamp, going to find Argus in the back, and not much progression.
Alright, time to go see what Hookshot Cave is, as we did see prieR check the big chest of the swamp. That was only 300 rupees.
Now, I'm willing to bet that there's going to be some sort of fire source here in Hookshot Cave. Either in the lamp or in the fire rod.
I want things to go a little bit farther. I'm gonna say it's Bombos, or whatever medallion is required for Misery Mire.
That's also possible. We do have the hook shot and the boots, so we can get access into Misery Mire. We do not have the Red Cane, so unless we find that Red Cane inside of Misery Mire, we're going to be blocked off from seeing that boss. As we see Ben do the hammer dash to get his key.
And there is bonk runners to checks, but we know those are fire locked right now because of where the boots ended up being.
Yeah, we know if we find a fire source here, or don't find a fire source here, that at best Bonk Rocks or King's Tomb is going to be Lamp. As
Cane
there is that cane.
And the fire rod.
The Hookshot Cave coming up all red for us today. Now those boots are in logic.
And you know what? I'm actually okay with seeing the Cane of Samari because that means we get to see the other new allowed trick maybe. Which is the icebreaker.
That fire rod does open up the possibility of something being progressive in Dark Cross as well.
That is true.
As Ben finding 2 dungeon items inside the front 2 checks of Swamp Palace makes complete sense to do the left side here. You know you're gonna find 1 item over there.
And prieR's on his way, heading straight to Misery Mire, actually.
Yeah, you have a couple different options with that fire rod. You can do Misery Mire. You can do Ice Palace. You would prefer to do Ice Palace in a go mode situation, but in doing Mire and what is going to be Desert Palace, you can get 2 crystals for 1 and leave that go mode Ice Palace available for you.
That also makes sense, yeah. So I think prieR is going to be checking bosses, I think.
Yeah, as we do need the medallion to open up Mire, as chat points out. Over on his side, that row is completely blank.
Now keep in mind, we still have a guaranteed Trinix in the boss shuffle pool. Maybe 2. We don't know yet. And we don't know, but for all we know, they could be in our pendant dungeons that we haven't checked yet.
Yeah, the best thing for Ben to want in this situation, being so far behind even though he doesn't know it, is an Ice Rod hunt. Either a medallion or Ice Rod hunt.
But that actually plays also into our restrictions here because if we have 2 Trinix, it has to be specifically in Skullwoods. No, actually, no.
We found the 2 items in Skullwoods.
Yeah, but in terms of bosses, I think...
Trinix cannot be inside of Skullwoods.
Yes, and Trinix can also not be in a Moldorm arena. That is another restriction.
So we know Trinix cannot be in 2 of our pendant dungeons as we find a Mothula here in Desert. The reward is simply 300 rupees. And the 4th crystal for prieR. As we are going to see Diver down on Ben's side. If you joined us for the warm-up show, you saw Ben practicing this very same trick. He's going to try it with bombs.
And unfortunately, there is this thing called a Staphos Knight. Gonna blow that up real quick.
Nope, just missing that pixel on the bomb there. He's a little too far left. He needs to be about 2 pixels more right. Now he's a little too far right. He needs to be 1 pixel. Nope, keep going right. Nope. So how I use this is that in a normal Link sprite, you could see the shine of his boot. It's a gold pixel or 2. You line up that gold pixel with the U on the border of the floor. And you are about 3 pixels above that in order for that bomb clip to work.
Also, I have something we completely forgot about. The Fire puts our boots in logic.
Yes, it does.
So prieR is now doing in the checks there. Didn't find anything in the ball grass, but let's see if King's Tomb has something for us as well.
As Ben has already checked the graveyard ledge here, nothing of progression. As Ben is going to go check that big chest before he heads into the back of Swamp Palace. Now, this door over here is a little bit finicky. For some reason, it clips you and sends you back downstairs the first time you enter it. I do not know if that happens in vanilla or not, or if it's just a little randomizer quirk.
It is a Japanese 1.0 bug, and they have chosen... The randomizers have chosen not to fix it. For
Makes
some reason.
perfect sense, I guess.
They wanted to keep the game... I mean, it makes sense in the sense that they wanted to keep the game as true to the Japanese 1.0 game as they could.
And this is in no way a critique of the council deciding, but the fairy that is in Lake Hylia, the creature comfort of just being able to buy that instead of going through the mountains of text to get your bomb and arrow upgrade is way more of a time sink than having to climb up and down stairs. So, but I guess c'est la vie. We just deal with it here.
There is a way to prevent it from happening, but
It's
I don't
tricky to
remember.
get.
Yeah, I don't remember it completely.
Either way, we're going to get our cold stare fight here from prieR, going to pick up his 5th crystal versus Ben's soon-to-be 1. And prieR is going to have the opportunity to pick up the 2nd red crystal in an Ice Palace full clear as well.
Down goes cold stare. Rewarded with the compass. Thieves Town is done. Our tracker, they're messing up a little bit there. That would be, of course, we're rolling out to that. Shoutouts to him, by the way, for keeping those items up to date for you guys, and more importantly, keeping us honest up here in the commentary booth. Thank you for your service.
Alright, prieR, where are you going? Going Ice Palace.
Again, perfectly makes sense here. You are essentially possibly 1 item away from go mode, which is the medallion to open up Misery Mire. You don't know where those Trinexes may be living. If there are multiple Trinexes, Trinex could be in his vanilla spot of Turtle Rock, and you may never see him again, depending upon where that big key is in GT.
Gee, I wonder which one of these 3 enemies had the key. Certainly the one that is the only one you can kill through conventional means.
As Ben checking his Bonk Rocks and King's Tomb here, not going to find anything of progression. He needs to head up to that Hookshot Cave to find that Fire Rod and that Red Cane.
Alright. Alright, we're gonna see if prieR goes for Icebreaker. If he is gonna go for it, he'll go right out of this room instead of left.
You do need to hit the switch before you go do it. So you need to come back, hit the switch here in this bombable floor room, and then come back.
Yeah, it looks like prieR is opting out of doing Icebreaker. Makes some sense. Probably still not got it down pat. It is still relatively new in terms of people learning it.
As Ben is heading over into his Hookshot Cave check.
Wow, look at Ben's screen here, just getting assaulted by the boulders of Dacto. No, that's not Dacto, it's Vulture. There was even a a spark trap in his way. Ones that don't really cling to walls.
prieR missing the switch here. Going to go back and hit it to progress further into Ice Palace. Having no small key, he's either going to fall through the room to the north after this room, or head over into the Freezor's room.
Gonna head over to the freezer room, it looks like.
Finding just 20 rupees here in the Freezor chest. Has no big key, so we're gonna kind of progress through this backwards.
Oh!
Through Ice Palace.
Okay. For a second there, I thought prieR was just gonna go straight to the boss.
You could gamble on that last item being on, or the second item being on the boss, and then coming back this way to do the Icebreakers glitch. That actually might be the best way to route everything going forward. Just going to go kill the boss, and then hope that you find your items along the way with the Ice Palace bomb jump. If you don't, once you beat the boss, go do Icebreakers and get those 3 quick checks when you're done.
Maybe.
As Ben's going to pick up more safeties here. Again, nothing wrong with being cautious through this Randomizer. Though at 13 hearts and blue mail, you should be good to kind of be okay through the rest of this seed. As Ben is heading into his Ice Palace, Ben probably is going to try and do that Icebreaker.
We'll see.
Just want to remind you, race fans, that these two teams are playing against each other later this evening in about an hour and 20 minutes. It's going to be Yodanashi versus Durant on the ALTTPR League 2 channel. If you are a fan of either team, please do check that out. As you can also follow the racers with that command, !R. Give them a follow on Twitch. As what is normally a Pengy room is not super fun with crickets and shadow guys going all over the place.
So I think I know what Coldstare has, but I think we haven't checked the big chest yet either. So yeah, we haven't done this yet. But not checking it. Oh, we have all. Whoa. Do we have nothing but keys left then?
It's possible.
Yeah, we don't have any keys left because he hasn't gone back. Yeah, it's only keys.
As we see Ben, that roller giving him a spook from the other room.
And we have our second Moth, so that is one of our 2 duplicate bosses taken care of. Quick dispatch there. So now we know there are 2 Mothras in the game.
Ben missing the clip in with the Cane of Samaria.
There it is. There's Icebreaker, folks. Nicely done. So yeah, folks, we have now seen 2 Mothulas. One at Desert, one at Ice. There can no longer be Mothula available to any of our runners at this point in time. So, any of the other bosses, we know we're out of Moths.
So we have a couple different options here for prieR in finding their Go Mode items. We have the fairy fountain inside of the pyramid that has 2 checks, and we know Tower of Hera has another item for us that may be fire-locked or up on the boss, because our big key is in the bottom basement part of Tower of Hera.
So to remind folks of what we have and have not seen, we have not seen the Armos Knights, the Lambolas, Helmosaur King,
And
Vitreous-
Trinex.
Vitreous, and Trinex. And of those 5 bosses, including with everyone of those could have a duplicate, so there could be 2 of them, including every other boss we have fought thus far, with the exception of a Moth, because we've already seen 2 Moths.
And we know Dark Cross inside of Hyrule Castle is an item. And prieR has yet to progress through the escape sequence, which is where Ben found his Ether Medallion. I'm guessing Lamp is over here in this fairy fountain.
No, it's
Nope.
the Quake Medallion!
We've got a Quake Medallion. So, more than likely, we got ourselves the capacity to enter into Misery Mire. As we see prieR entering into Hyrule Castle escape sequence, going to find that Ether Medallion here in the first chest.
Okay, we know for sure prieR checked that at Misery Mire location. So I think it's safe to say that it was in fact Bombos and our eyes were just playing tricks on us at this point.
Yeah, if he has Quake, well, it may be Ether. We'll see what he does when he finds it here in the first chest. Progressing through, it's Bombos.
Yeah, so if it was Quake or Ether, he would have went to Mire immediately to check it.
So we are on a medallion hunt for Bombos.
Which is actually a good thing, because that means that Turtle Rock, we know now, has nothing.
And that's even better news for Ben, who needs to play a little bit of catch-up. He's going to be able to go mode a lot of the dungeons going forward. As he finds a Mothula here in Ice Palace.
And as our tracker is pointing out, could also be worried about the bosses that we have left to encounter. Which is true. Each of the bosses are guaranteed to be represented at least once. So there's still a Trinex out there that could be in Misery Mire for all prieR knows.
There could be a Trinex in the climb to GT, up GT, with no Ice Rod, with Ice Rod being inside of Turtle Rock.
That's also true. So we may not be in go mode yet once we find that medallion. But we will be able to start finding the bosses and hunting them down their weaknesses.
Could there be 2 Trinexes in GT? I do believe so, as he can spawn definitely in Ice Armos room.
Bombos! All 3 medallions were in the pyramid area. One in the dark world, the other 2 in the light world. That puts prieR in a no mode.
In a Schrodinger's mode, because we do not know where the bosses may be. We do not know if we need the Ice Rod or not. But logically, all of his crystal dungeons are full clearable outside of what potential bosses may be there.
That is right.
So even though prieR has a 4 crystal lead, this is solely dependent upon what bosses we're going to find in the areas that prieR needs to run himself through.
And yeah, it was Bombos. My eyes did not play tricks on me earlier. So it all comes down to what bosses we have here.
as we get our Cold Stare fight here from Ben. Not really able to get Cold Stare too much in a corner, but get some licks in with that Fire Rod and Master Sword. Now, you may be thinking a 3 to 4 crystal lead could be insurmountable here at this point, but both runners still having Master Sword and no silvers. That is a huge difference if Ben goes back into Skullwoods to get that sword upgrade in the big chest. You're no longer spinning to win on Ganon, and that makes your GT climb significantly easier.
But do you even bother fighting them off when you know the pedestal is dead? I don't think...
He has not found his second item in Skullwoods. So as he's ticking off stuff after he's done with his crystal hunt in dungeons, he's going to have Dark Cross, he's going to have Pyramid Fairy, and he's going to have one check in Skullwoods to do.
Fair point. He may choose to ignore it, however. But if you choose to go for it, that could prove to be Ben's advantage.
So, logically here, Lamp has to be in Mire.
Yeah, I think
It's
you're
either
right.
in Mire or in Hera. Because we sequence broke both Pod and Eastern Palace, which have lamp lock rooms to access the boss. Though Eastern, if the big key wasn't in the chest through the dark room, technically doesn't need lamp, but we definitely need it here for Mire and Pod for it to be in logic. So we'll know as we progress through here in Mire as to where that lamp may be located.
Lamp could also be in Turtle Rock, I think.
It could be in Turtle Rock. We do have the Fire Rod. We have all the checks up to the Dark Maze part of Turtle Rock. So everything outside the boss and Laser Bridge is in logic. As we find Red Mail here on prieR's side, inside the vanilla big key chest. As Ben finds his Quake Medallion, absolutely useless for him. Does he remember he has Dark Cross left? He does! Hopefully, this is not a mirror and flute. It is. No, Ben, no!
That is unfortunate for Ben.
As prieR found his second item inside of Misery Mire, going to go right to the boss here.
Does have to be a little careful.
Yeah, he does not have the fortunate amount of fairies here. No way to catch one. Does get that safety fairy from the bunny beam. As Ben remembers he, oh yeah, completed everything in the front of Desert. I just need to go to the back. Yes, Dark Cross is in logic with Fire Rod. The only thing logically required to clear crystals that needs lamp is the dark room in Pod, that very first dark room once you do enter the back of it. And I think the basement room, when you use the portal after the Terrapin room, also does not allow you to have a reachable torch. So those two rooms are technically out of logic without lamp. As we see, or don't see in this case, prieR progressing through the dark rooms of Misery Mire. Once prieR does get that 7th crystal, we're going to be opening up a very special game.
A tradition, if you will, of the randomizer. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Now, this does not mean we'll complete it.
Now, wait a minute. What's the boss?
Yeah, we
Boss
could.
is the Armos Knight!
So, prieR here able to pick up their 7th crystal as Ben picks up his 4th.
We still had another free boss left. Maybe 2 even.
What Ben is really hoping for is finding the Ice Rod before
The Silvers!
prieR.
The Silvers are on the victorious, are on the Armos Knights. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the 7th crystal for prieR57. And that means he is eligible under Ganon's Tower, and we have a game we like to play. We have 22 chests in Ganon's Tower, but only one of them can contain the Ganon's Tower big key. You're already throwing them out. Give us a number in chat. Now tell us which chest you think we're going to find that big key in. It's in the order that prieR will open them up.
So yes,
Worldwide Wimpy, do you have a guess?
I always guess 14 in honor of my favorite baseball player of all time.
I'm going to go with 6. Why? I just feel like it today.
What Ben is really hoping for here is a Trinex in that Ice Armos room, with prieR having no Ice Rod.
So, there is a few restrictions here that we should probably mention on the way up as we're getting the game going here. The Lambola's 2 room cannot have a duplicate blind. So, that's immediately out. That can still be a Trinex, though. But once we get up to the Moldorm floor, the only bosses that can show up, if they haven't already shown up already, is a 2nd Cold Stare, Victorious, another Moldorm, and the Helmosaur King. Mafia can also show up there, but we've already seen 2 mobs.
As Ben progresses through his Eastern Palace.
So if the boss key is not behind the Ice Armos, there is only one boss in this game that can stop prieR in his tracks, and that is a Trinex at Lambola's 2.
I do believe Trinex can appear on the Ice Armos Arena too. I think he can.
That is true. But if the big key's not there, we don't have to worry about it.
As we're going to stop the game, get in your last second guesses here in a second as we enter GT at 134.8. Go ahead and count along at home. Like the count. Our first chest is in this safety room here. 1. As we find a Bob. 2. We are left side locked.
Alright. 3 will be the torch even when we don't pick it up. And for us today, it is a small key. We're definitely going to grab that. And we also saw an early sighting of Bob, our friendly ghost Chancy Fairy. Normally don't see him in Randomizer, but we got to see him today, so I'm happy for it.
And now all the Bobs are dead inside of Ganon's Tower here, since we did take that small key.
Tis unfortunate that, but what can you do?
Check number 4.
Small key. Chest number 5, also a small key. There goes my guess. Our container.
Check number 6. Check number 7 is a shroom. Wouldn't it be funny if our shroom gave us an ice rod to a Trinex-locked Landmola's 2?
That would be hilarious. I don't approve, but it would be hilarious. There is wall masters in this place. prieR has to be a little bit careful. You don't normally see them on the left side here. Chest number 8. Small key.
As Ben doing his blind fight here in Eastern Palace, no real way to get a script. You just kind of get up in there and swing away. Having blue mail, your riot shield, and a sword. That's all you kind of really need to do.
And there's a veritable army of enemies right here that prieR has to get past. Does so.
As Ben picks up his 5th crystal of the seed.
That is chest number 9 there for prieR, entering now what we call the Randomizer room. Aptly named. No one comes here except for us Randomizer players.
So yeah, Lamp has to be in Turtle Rock.
I think it could still be in Hookshot Cave, can it not? No.
No, we
never
checked
mind.
Hookshot Cave. Let's see where Ben is going. Ben's going right into the Dark Cross.
10, 11, 12, 13. Shovel and a green potion found for prieR.
We could be digging up an ice rod for a Trinex here in the Ice Armos room.
There is one chest left before prieR's most likely going to go right side. And hope that we don't have to fight the Trinex. Or whatever's in the Ice Armos fight. And that is what we affectionately call Bob's chest.
Let's see what we get here. Hoping for a big key on prieR's side. Just some more explosions. What do we got inside? It's a Trinex!
Trinex at at the Ice Armos fight. That is to say, though, we still may not have.
We have
a big
5 checks to make over here on the right-hand side. We're at 15, 16, 17, 18.
With 19 being here in the tile room.
This race just got interesting, ladies and gentlemen.
There's still 2 duplicate bosses, so there could be a second Trident up the tower. But if we can get past Lambo 2 without needing that ice rod, we are in business. Here we go. 20 rupees. 3 bombs. 3 bombs. And 20 rupees.
We got a tile room to check, ladies and gentlemen.
That is chest number 19 coming up the tile room.
This is the greatest news for BenCreighton. Because it looks as though he is heading into Turtle Rock to get a lamp. And perhaps an ice rod. I know he's coming down the mountain. He's gonna be brave and do the Palace of Darkness in dark. As it looks as though prieR is just going to do this the manual way without using the cape exploit by pulling on the wall. Have to olay these tiles.
And not get grabbed by the wall master. This is pretty much a 30-second auto-scroller. No one likes doing this check for
Now,
reason.
If we do find a big key here, which we do...
Ladies and gentlemen, that is number 19 for our big key guessing game in the tile room of all places.
But guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We still may have another Trinex!
That's right. We still have 2 duplicate bosses unaccounted for, one of which could be right here in Lambo 2. And we'll know if it's Lambo 2 because of how interesting Trinex reacts to that room. And Trinex, as a reminder for you, chat, cannot be at Moldorm 2. That is a restricted location for Trinex. The Moldorm arenas are reserved for only 5 bosses. One of which is the normal Moldorm.
And right now, the difference between these 2 runners was prieR being a brave boy and doing the 2 dark rooms of Pod and Eastern Palace.
So we have not seen a Lammolas, we have not seen a Helmosaur King. We have not seen Vitreous. And we have seen 2 Mofulas. Now, we have seen a Blind, but Blind cannot be at this upcoming boss. Lambo 2 cannot be Blind. It's something weird with the fight. I don't have, the
It's a
details.
sprite allocation with the fire spitter, and in the last phase of Blind with so many heads and bodies moving around, it kind of breaks the game. As we get a little bit of a heck of time here with the enemies in the last gauntlet room.
These thieving plant enemies, otherwise known as Picket. Alright, moment of truth. Lambo 2
is Landmola's. We are in go mode.
That is correct, folks. Trinix cannot be at the top of the tower, and that is our first and only sign of the Lambos this seed. That is go mode for prieR57 at 141 and change. It gave us a scare, though, with the Trinix in the basement. And we would have seen Trinix's shell in the Bunny Beam room if it was Trinix in Lambo's 2. I forgot that step, and I could have said we were going early if we were in go mode earlier than that. Meanwhile, BenCreighton did get the crystal out of Palace of Darkness, moving slowly but surely to the seed.
Again, the only real difference between these two runners were the sequence breaking done by prieR. Ben was a little bit more cautious with safeties, but you really can't fault him for trying to be so cautious in an Randomizer seed, as we see one of the knights or maybe a
sword! prieR fighting a tempered sword at the top of the tower! One boss left to fight.
as Ben opens up his mire.
It's Helmasaur King! Oh no, this is probably one of the worst bosses tonight! In a Moldorf arena. Not a lot of space to move. He can randomly move forward and protect his mask.
prieR, though, making this look easy. That red mail helping out a whole bunch. Your real concern here, just falling off the ledge. 3 sword swipes, though, is going to take care of this.
4 sword swipes even. And down goes Helmasaur King. The last boss we're going to be seeing of this seed be from prieR. And we should probably mention here, it's boss show. What about Aghanim and what about Ganon? Those fights are the same regardless. So we are out of the randomized enemy territory, at least in terms of bosses.
We do not get a verification chest here. prieR's run is now invalidated according to the old school rules of Randomizer.
Which do not exist.
I kid, of course, as we get our Aga 2 fight here. Single hits here, but prieR has a substantial lead. As Aga 2, the evil wizard, goes down.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, with Aga 2 down, it is now time to fight the pig. Tempered sword and silver arrows in hand, it'll be 12 slashes a phase, or 6 spins, for the first 2 phases to advance. After which, we'll enter the 3rd phase, which is the ground stomp phase. That is seeded so that the runners will have the same pattern of teleports for the first instance of the fight. 4 slashes as Ganon decides to stop moving, and then we enter the darkness technique. Keep the torches lit, hit, slash once to stun with the sword, and let loose 4 silver arrows to win the day. Should prieR run out of silver arrows, though, it'll be 3 spin attacks per missed silver arrow as Ganon begins to teleport away. Getting out the cape for safety here. Alright, we're in the third phase now. 2 hits in, 3 hits now. Very well fought thus far. Gonna be a little trouble in the last hit. Gets a free silver there. There should be a second one here. Does not get the torch glitch, does not need it. Oop. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, get your GGs in chat for prieR57, who wins this race for Magic Lamp Oil, will be going up 3-2 in the league. And that is an official SRL time of first place with a time of 1 hour, 47 minutes, and 30 seconds.
As we watch Ben go through his Misery Mire, he will get that news relatively soon as to prieR finishing out the seed.
What a seed this was. What a seed this was.
Yeah, that lamp had to have been somewhere in Turtle Rock, or a check that we are forgetting. We did see Catfish, which was a sword upgrade. I'm trying to think of anywhere else it could have been. Maybe Hera. It could have been in Hera.
Maybe Hera. And we are now joined by prieR. GG's to you, sir, and congratulations on the win. You were a little bit scared, though, weren't you, with that GT?
Yeah, what a GT. Thanks for the GG.
Yes. So, we have no idea where the lamp is.
Yep, no idea.
So, really, honestly, the big difference between you and Ben in this seed was your sequence breaking of Pod and Eastern Palace. How concerned were you in doing those dark rooms, this being on Randomizer?
Yeah, you can encounter some bad enemies like ball and chain and those kind of enemies, but you have to try. I think you have to try to do those dark rooms without lamp.
As we see Ben doing his Misery Mire rooms without the lamp here.
Oh, the mushroom was the ice rod. There we go. Oh, we didn't figure that out at least.
Yeah, so fortunately you did not find that big key behind that Trinex. You found it in the tile room. How concerned were you in having to maybe climb back down and find an ice rod with a big key in a vanilla location?
Yeah. When I found the shovel and the mushroom, I was thinking, oh no, Ice Sword is going to be a fetch quest, but luckily I didn't need to find it.
As we see over on Ben's side as he enters into his Armos fight, seeing the .done command in the SRL, so he is going to formally forfeit this race. Again, not a bad showing from Ben, following the logic kind of forward, just not finding that lamp soon enough to kind of do all the dark rooms, as we are joined by Mr. BenCreighton. Now, Ben, the real difference was the sequence break from prieR's side on doing Pod and Eastern Palace. When you finally reached that point of saying, hey, I'm just going to break this, how behind did you feel?
I fell behind that whole race, to be perfectly honest. Yeah.
So, thanks to both of you, though, we do know where all the swords were. prieR, the one sword you did not find was on Catfish, actually.
And Ben, your tempered sword was in Skullwood's big chest, as we found another sword upgrade in the right-hand side of the mini Helmasaur room just before the Moldorm 2 fight. So it was completely possible both of you could have had a butter sword fight going up the GT climb. Outside of that, how about the medallions in Escape?
Yeah, we found in Pyramid Fairy. I found Quake. I said to myself, yeah, that's not the one I'm looking for. Doing Escape next, I found Ether, and that wasn't the right one too. So I was happy to find bombos in sewers.
Jeez, I was, when I turned in Pyramid Fairy, I'd been planning to mirror out and go ahead and get that orphan check, and then, I don't know, it just slipped my mind, and that wasted me a bunch of time.
Well, at least you didn't have to worry about doing a silverless fight, because as you forfeited, you were about to fight the Armos Knights. They had the silvers.
Now, we did have pretty generous boss locations for the seed today. No Trinexes outside of the Ice Armos room, which luckily we didn't have to go dip inside finding that big key and tile room. How were your feelings on the seed overall with the enemy placements?
Sometimes in Randomizer you can get good or bad situations. Compared to a normal randomizer. This time it wasn't too hard, but the overall seed and the locations were a little twisted. Finding certain items was difficult. Overall, the seed was okay, I think.
Yeah, the early game was a little rough just because the sword came so late that I found myself in a couple of spots where, okay, I know these are just rats, but I've only got so many bombs, and the timing's tough with their movement patterns. It's not that I was in danger of dying, it's if I want to try to clear everything in this room, what's going to be the best way to go about it?
Yeah.
So, going forward in the league, what are your guys' most look forward to seed setting for the rest of the season?
I can't wait for cross keys.
Yeah,
I'm looking
cross
forward
keys
to
is
mystery.
probably...
Yeah, Mystery Seed
cool.
coming up
Yeah.
next week. And the cross keys coming after the week after that. So
yeah, I think it's week number 5 for cross keys. I'm not playing next week, but I can't wait for cross keys.
That's right, but your teams are not done yet, are they?
no, as we've got a doubleheader between these two teams coming up on the ALTTPR League 2 channel between Yodanashi and Durant. That's starting in approximately 40 minutes. If you want to see these two teams compete after we're done with the interview, in a very tight division in Misery Mire.
Yes, and of course we have other races across all of Speed Gaming, not just a Link to Fast Randomizer League, but of our Link to Fast Randomizer League matches coming up in the near future. Starting up in right about now, actually, is Team Hot Dish versus Team I Like Big Boots. Cake in the Closet versus Zero-ish. That's over on the Link to Fast Randomizer League. That is THE ALTTPR League. And also we're starting out with Whirlpool Pet for Food versus Team But We're Buddies. Fatboy 300 versus Fantalis. That's over on Speed Gaming 5. And starting up around the same time that this match is starting up, we have Sphere Affinity versus Team Forfeiters R Us, Sabatender versus Dataplet over on Speed Gaming 2. And there's just a bunch of matches going to happen at 9 o'clock. There's way too many to cover, really.
And tomorrow we have 11 total matches scheduled so far. We're not quite sure if we're going to fit any more in throughout the Speed Gaming channel networks and the ALTTPR League channels as well. So if you are a big randomizer fan, Stay tuned to both channels and check out the ALTTPR League.com website. We will have this schedule posted there as well, so you can follow each and every one of your favorite teams and runners. Well, GG's on the seed to Pierre and Ben. Good racing, you guys.
Yes, GG's to both of you as well. Make sure to follow these two new runners here, folks. They put on an excellent race for us tonight. And of course, make sure to follow Speed Gaming and Speed Gaming 6. You don't miss any racing action, not just in Link's Best Randomizer League. And of course, make sure to follow the ALTTPR League and our sub channels 2 through 4 as well. So you don't miss any more league-specific races as well. Also, make sure to follow my co-commentator, Worldwide Web Tracker, involving Ocelot as well. And I suppose you can follow me as well. But with that being all said and done, folks, I think it's about time for us to wrap it here. So from all of us here at A Link to the Past Randomizer League, I have been WolfLink0270, and we shall see you all next time, and thank you for watching. Have a good night, everyone.